So in the last two videos I showed you how you can build a productized version of your service, and I explained why you need to build it. And in today's video I'm going to show you how you can use it in your day-to-day in order to gain leverage inside of your business. I'm going to share with you a demonstration at the end of this video, but this is what a final product will look like. Of course you cannot see the output nor the prompts here. In order to do so, to explain to you how you can use it, I prepared this little presentation for you, and this is what I will use as assistance in making this video. The example that I'm going to use for today is a YouTube script writing agency, and for the purpose of this exercise, let's say their deliverables are long form script writing, short form script writing, and idea generation. Let me get a pen also to assist me in this. So the first step will be to build all of these flows individually. So one for long form, one for short form, one for titles. The way you do this is by following this over here. So you can see one of my last videos I showed you how to build one step by step. I recommend you watch that video because I'm not going to explain step by step again how to do it, at least not in this video. But I've made a little graph showing you how each one of these would look like. So we have one for long form, one for short form, and one for titles. And we'll start with the long form because it's the most complex. For data entry, in this case, instead of using information from a Google form, which this one uses, but I used watch messages on Slack. So the way this will work is a client will send an audio to a specific channel, and then based on that audio, a long form video will be created. And the way we do this is as follow. So whenever a new message is detected, we'll have one large language model to transcribe that. Then we'll have another large language model to summarize the information to make sure it picked up on the personal details that the user wants to include in the video. From here we will have a first large language model which will create the structure. This is according to the client's data, so the way he normally creates his structures or outlines. For this, so in each large language model there are a couple of steps that you need in order for it to work. These will be things like temperature, so you have temperature ranging from 0 to 1. The lower it is, the more it will follow your instructions. The higher it is, the more creative it will get. Then you'll have the model. If you are using, for example, OpenAI API, you can use GPT 4.0, you can use GPT 4.0 Turbo, you can use GPT 3.5. If you're using Claude AI, which is the one that I used in this, you can either use Claude 3 Sonnet, you can use Claude Opus, Claude 2.1, that's up to you, and I recommend you test all of them to see which one would work better for your use case. I have a video in the past that shows you how to test the variables, how to test which model you should use, and let me go get that for you because that will be helpful. Okay, so this is how you want to test for the large language model. So this is the same way that you would test in chemistry an equation. You want to keep all variables the same minus the one that you are testing. So in this case we are testing for large language model / model. So this can be GPT versus Claude, this can be GPT 4.0 versus GPT 4.0 Turbo, this can be Claude Opus versus Claude Sonnet, but this is the variable that we will test. So we will keep all of the rest the same, so the information it has to perform the task, the instructions and the prompts, and we will measure output 1 against output 2. And the output that we see, let's say we give a rating 7 out of 10, we give a 9 out of 10, no, 4 out of 10. Then we know that this is the model / large language model that we will use, because with the same information it performed way better. So this is how you test for large language model. Let's get back into it. So have our temperature, we have our model, and then we will have our prompts, which divide themselves by user prompt and system prompt. Then you'll have to insert the maximum number of tokens that you want. Where you'll spend the most of your time in this build is two things. So one, deciding on the structure of how you want it to perform. So what are all of the steps involved in your build so you can get the desired output, the desired result that you want. And then here, so user prompts and system prompts, because this is you are teaching, you are priming the brain, which is this model, on how to perform the task, which is what you want. You want the task to be performed as well as possible. Second step in this, so remember, we are on the long form for now. So far we have received an audio from a client of ours with instructions for a video. We've transcribed that, we summarized the information, and we created a structure for the video. So now we're going to create a large language model which will script out the intro. And for this, besides this information, which will be constant on all large language models, will need temperature, model, user prompts, system prompts, and token. You will also need this additional information in order to get a good output. So you will need examples of introductions that worked well in the past. You will need instructions on how to write the intro. These would be things like write at a 6th grade level, don't start with a question, don't use these sort of expressions, don't use these sort of words, create a curiosity gap, transition this way, all of those, which is where your expertise is replicated into the model. You'll need the information from the audio, this audio here, and you will need the information from the summary. And now both of these, I should have specified this, so this is my bad. Both of these will come on the user prompt. It's not very clean. And these two will come under system prompts, because if you watched any of my videos, you know, user prompt is where we link the information and provide the task. System prompt is where we teach it how to do the task. So these two will be user prompt, these two will be system prompt. Third step after this is to script out the body, and for this we'll need this information, but we'll also need the arguments for the body, the information from the audio, the information from the summary, and instructions on how to script the body. I wouldn't recommend pasting examples on how you previously scripted bodies. You can, I've tried both ways, but for this use case I won't. This would be under system prompts, these three would be under user prompts. And then you would do the same for the CTA. And then we would have to exit this data, so treat this data. What will we do with this data? In this case, we would add it to a fill-in-the-blank Google Doc. We would send it to email to the user if this was running individually. Because it's running as a part of a system, as you'll see in a bit, we would update this to Airtable. So we would create a new row on Airtable with the name of the video and the Google Doc, the link of the Google Doc. Then we would ping a team member on Slack once that's done, so we can come in and check. So this would be long form. For short form, as you can see, it's a little bit smaller. As for data entry, now we would get the long form video that was just scripted. Because the idea with this is, based on one audio, we'd get a long form video, a short form video, and some titles. So this would be the data entry. So this would be every time a new row on the Airtable of long forms is updated, it would take that Google Doc and it would provide that information to the first large language model, which would break the long form video. So let's say it's a video with 10 pages, it would break it into 10 concepts / 10 ideas that we will now use to build our short form videos. And the way you would want to do this, once you have those 10 ideas, is create a router like this that divides. So let's say this large language model creates 10 ideas. You add those 10 ideas to a data store so you can then divide them. So this would be idea 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, as you can see. Why? So then we can perform multiple actions at the same time instead of having it run one at a time. So here you would have your next large language model, which would be what? You have two ways to go from here, as you see. You have option 1, which you can have a full script with one large language model per idea. So this would look something like this. Or you can have option 2, where you can have one large language model for a hook, one large language model for a body, one large language model for CTA. This is purely dependent on your expertise. The way it would look like this, it would be like this. So this would be hooks, this would be body, this would be CTA, and you would replicate this through all of them. I can show you how this looks, so one shot versus multiple steps. So on one shot you would have 4 inputs, you'd have only one large language model with instructions, prompts and a database, and you'd get only one output. When it's multiple steps, you will have the same amount of inputs. Different inputs will link to different large language models. So for example, input 1 can link to large language model 1, 2, but might not need to link to number 3, because the more links you have, the more expensive and the more time it will take to run your build. But this is where it gets different. So instead of you having one large language model, you divide it by 3. So this would be the one for hooks, this would be the one for body, this would be the one for CTA. And instead of having a general prompt to build the full script, you would have one series of prompts and instructions to build a hook, the same for body, the same for CTA, and then a unique database for each one. And instead of having just one output, you would have one output with hook, you would have one output with body, and you would have one output with CTA. Next we have titles, and the way this would work is way simpler than the other two, because we will leverage templates on this one. Data entry for this would be the same audio we got for the long form, and it would pretty much only be one step, which is based on the information you got from here, come up with 15 winning titles based on these winning formats, and you would paste the winning formats that you have. And then you would have a Google Docs to put all the outputs together, and you would add this output. You would add these Google Docs to Airtable. And once you build all of this individually, like we did here, essentially what you can do is, with one input from your client, so one audio, you can create a long form script, 10 short forms based on that long form, and 10 to 15 ideas depending on how many winning formats you have. And I want to make something clear, which is you will spend a lot of time on the prompts like I did. You can see here on short form I have over 3,000 operations. These are 70% of these are tests. In long form 80% of these are tests. But once you nail down the individual intelligence, so this is where leverage comes in. Once you have the output that you are happy with in any given run, then you can start multiplying this at scale. Because now, after we got each of these to be, once we got the green light from the client saying, yes, this output I'm very happy with, now we can create what I'm going to show you here, which is where it gets interesting, where you can create endless loops automations. For example, you can create the first step, which will check Airtable for new records. So this will be things like when client uploaded an idea, when a doc was uploaded, and when data was added. And then you can have multiple large language models doing a lot of things. So for example, you can, based on the information either from an audio or from a doc uploaded, brainstorm me 2 different angles and then create me an hook for this new angle. Why? Because you already built here the correct prompts plus databases for hooks. You already have that. Same for introduction. And then you could put that information into a fill in the blank doc, so content idea for client, the idea and the hooks. You can push that data to the Google Docs, you can push that data to the Airtable, but remember that you have an automation that is always checking Airtable for new records. So based on these new ideas, we can do the same. Then you can update the Airtable and it can do the same, and you can do this over and over and over again to come up with as many ideas as you want. And the way you'll do this is by leveraging skeletons. So a skeleton is everything that is in black. So in this case, all the prompts and large language models that you create before you create the automations. So this step in getting the desired output to be achieved, that then you can leverage pretty much in every way that you want. Because once you have the large language model that can create you hooks like you want, intros like you want, titles like you want, bodies like you want, CTAs like you want, then you can start creating these sorts of automations where they work at scale for you. And this is how they could be leveraged at the same time. So continuing with the example that we are following, long form, short form ideas. We start with long form where client sends an audio. You can check an Airtable for brand voice, so the bot writes in the way that your clients normally speak. Then you would summarize all the information, the steps I've outlined. You would create a doc, you would add that doc to Airtable. The short form one would start, which is this is always looking for a new row on Airtable. You'd break the long form into 10 ideas, you would create a hook for each one, a body for each one, a CTA, you'd update the doc, you'd update it Airtable, and then Airtable would, based on this, I want you to generate me 5 possible titles based on the winning formats that we have. Then a hook for each one if you want to get fancy with it, but then it would be updated to Airtable. You would wait for someone on your team or yourself to mark it as validated. When validated, you could create a script outline for these 5 new ideas that you created. Then you'd update Airtable and you'd wait for it to be marked as done by someone in order for you to send to your client. And I want to break this down from the client's perspective and from your perspective. From client's perspective, he would send you an audio with an idea that he had when he was on a walk or at the gym, and he would get a message by you saying, okay, let me work on it, I will provide you feedback once I have it. And then about 30 minutes later, 1 hour depending on this second step, you would have 2 Google Docs, one with long form and short form, and another with, so this is 1 long form script and 10 short forms based on this idea. These new angles would be 5 different ideas or 10 different ideas based on this. So ways, when I mention ideas, I mean ways of positioning what he wants to speak about. From your perspective, you would just have to copy chief the long form and short form copy / delegate to someone to copy chief and update to done once that's done, because it's unrealistic that one AI model will be able to write a long form video exactly like you want it, so 100% quality. It will maybe get 80 to 90% there. If you do not care about quality, you can send this to your client, but I only work with people that take great detail into quality. So then you would need either yourself or someone on your team to take this to 100%. which would take maybe 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, depending on the size of the document and your attention to detail. Finally, before showing you one of these at work, I want to show you a bridge, a demonstration that I put together, which is explaining the current way of doing things, so the traditional way of doing things, let's say, and our way. The current way, the traditional way, a client has an idea and you have to go all of this back and forward with them, with your team and with yourself until that idea is completed, and this process can take 1 week. Once you build one of these models, which takes about 50 to 80 hours of deep work depending on the complexity of it, this is how you will be able to work. So you will have an idea and instantly, so the time the automation takes to run, it can be either 1 minute or 3 minutes, depending as well how many sleep models we put on it. You will have it 85% of the way there instantly. Then all you have to do is get feedback on this and do the human editing until you get the final output. Remember this that I showed you. Same can be true for content creation and for service delivery. So now I'm going to show you one of these at work. So I'm not going to show you the long form and short form one because that's private for my client and I don't want it to be seen. I'm going to show you one which is similar, where you fill one form with pretty much a YouTube link in the title of the video. This is what it will do. So it will transcribe that video and then it will send that information into this one. So the one I showed you at the beginning, it will do all of these steps. It will add it to a Google Doc, it will share the link in Google Drive, and it will send through an email. You can see here the duration is 49 seconds. Here the duration is 33 seconds. So that's 82 seconds in total if my math checks out. And this would be as you see, the email that you receive. Here's the doc with all the information. If you can open this up, so keep in mind, based on one YouTube link you would get this. So based on that YouTube link, a community post, a community pool, a small newsletter email with good copywriting, and a Twitter thread based on that YouTube link with good copywriting, because we train this on a lot of threads, and I will let you see how this looks. And that is it for today's video. As you saw in this, there are two complex steps when it comes to this, which is the prompts and the structures. If you want me to build one of these structures for you with a request that you have, I will have a dedicated link in the bio of this video which serves exactly for that. So a risk-free way, no commitment, no payment, I will build one of these structures in front of your eyes over a Google Meets call. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can book in the link down below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for existing. I wish you a very good day and see you on the next one.